here it comes.
Is that going to be every week now? We just going to come in with some crazy, like Cosby style dancing, rocking. Oh, the good Cosby,
The good, the good. That's right, the good.
Hi, Yona.
What's up, Philly?
It's all good, man.
Man, folks are coming in. Leslie,
What's up, everybody?
K9.
Yeah, we got to get everybody. We're still not. It could be to me too. How can I help? Get everybody from our Instagram on the tip. We got to get them all over here. I think we're coming. I think we're coming.
I think you know what, Phil. I have over on my phone. I just went live, and I've got David from Malaysia,
David,
and Ward and Mariella.
cool
We're
soul,
building.
Leslie. What's up, everybody?
So I've got a nice sign telling them where to go. So
Okay, cool.
hopefully it's in the other room. And then next week, you know what? Maybe we just start going
I
ahead
need to
and
do that. I need to do that. I need to put my phone's just here. It's doing nothing.
yeah,
It's
you know what?
thing.
You know what? I'm wondering if we should just go live on both and then
And just let them get over here.
let them get over here. Should we kind of?
Sonia Farid, how you doing, Sonia? Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that.
We are so
Excuse
glad
us,
to
people. It's new. It's new. We're working it out. We're figuring it out. Hello, Jeannie. But it's going to be beautiful, and we're going to check out the cobwebs. God, I own it. This is a mastermind.
That's right. And we got all sorts of people here today coming. Phil,
Yes, darling.
how you doing?
You know I'm good. I
Yeah,
really am.
that's right.
Moving through the spaces, man. I have something I can't wait to lay on the people. It's a thought I've had, and it helped with today, actually, and brought me into clarity and relief. So good. So I'm happy to be here and happy with who we have to talk to today, tonight, this evening. So thrilled.
We've got just one of our most delicious peoples. As a matter of fact, let me see something.
Work your
Okay.
magic out.
You
Work your
know,
magic.
let's see. I think I should do the little bit of this. This song is called Family Matters, but it's unable to play the sound. Let's see if we can play that sound. Let's see if we can play that sound. I'm so glad that you're here. There's the sound. So we should just bring in our guest.
Okay. I'm gonna live now too. So Linda, you're gonna be live as well on Instagram.
Oh my goodness. Whoa.
Yeah, you could be there. Yeah, I just so I can get people to understand we're here too. Okay, go.
We're here. We're on YouTube, which means I'm going to have to tell you what to tell them. You guys, okay, Phil and Linda can hear me pretty good, but do I sound echoed or delayed to you guys? Let me know how the sound is, because it's crazy in my ears.
Hey everybody, we're over on YouTube right now with my sister Linda Morris. That's so stupid. I know. Look, so dumb. Anyway, go over to YouTube. I don't know, how do they get there?
Okay, so I you know what? Let me get my shoot.
Trying to get
I have to
everybody
get my
to know.
other computer. You know what? Tell them go to YouTube
Go to YouTube
and
This is
put
our
in
first episode on YouTube.
at the vision
At-
is possible.
The vision is possible,
That should take them to our page.
and we should be rolling right now. I'm
And
gonna
then
have to
you
get off
could
this 'cause it's
click
incredibly
on
rude
the live show.
to this beautiful woman right here. So I'm gonna go over there right now, guys. Meet me at YouTube. I might come back. I might not. I don't know.
Okay,
Depends
so
on how much
see
you
what
want.
you
Bye.
got. Let me see if I can pull it up while I'm here. I know you
Yeah.
got. Okay. Let me get rid of this. Let me get rid of that. I'm gonna try and pull up the window. Let me see.
I feel like this is my childhood.
It's so good. Welcome, Linda. Welcome. This is so dumb. I love this.
This is great. You click
I
on the icon.
absolutely love this.
Okay, let me see if there we are. Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, do that, you guys. Go to YouTube and then put in search bar at the Vision is Possible. And then you'll see Just Do It, which is the name of our episode because, Linda, you just did it. Click on that. It says live, and you can be with us. I'm so excited about that.
And Iona is the one who's in the comments. So ask Iona the questions. You relay them to me and to Linda, and then we'll respond. And she'll type as fast as her little will allow.
As fast as her little fingers can make it happen.
Speaking of typing, I'm going to talk to Linda, okay, Iona, while you're doing that?
Okay, sounds
Okay.
good. Sounds
Hi,
good.
Lynn.
Thank you.
Hi, Phil.
How you doing?
I'm okay. It's been a crazy week. Oh, it's been a crazy several weeks, pretty nutty.
Why so?
But
Why come?
lots going on, just, lots with work and doing stuff around the house and looking at, how to move forward with the books now, and all those kinds of things. Books, yes. There are 2 books now. One of them is The Grizzly Gourmet, and the other is Nothing Short of Amazing, a autobiography sort of thing that I helped write for a couple of incredible people. And so that was really cool.
Can you see that, Linda?
Out.
We have your books up here.
That. Look at that.
Look.
That's so neat.
Nice.
And that was just like awesome. So yeah, so it's been a wild ride, and then
That's really,
summer
really good.
starting and all that kind of stuff, Yeah.
So not only is your writing morphing into something that is more and more you, your work is morphing into something that is more and more you as well. And before we get to that mess or wonderfulness, isn't it interesting that sometimes the place that we find ourselves that we may not see as one thing actually turns into something else as we apply ourselves to it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That makes sense, what I just said?
Yeah, it really does. It's interesting. I tell my sons frequently and remind them that say I want to be a writer, right? I am a writer, but where you go on that path, you don't know where you're going to go. And so you may say, well, I'm going to write these kinds of things. Well, sometimes your path is going to take you in a direction with that works that muscle for you so that ultimately you can get there, or you discover something there within you that is a talent that you hadn't tapped into within that really blossoms into something different. And it's really glorious, So yeah, this has been really quite a journey with a variety of things over the last couple of years, honestly. Yeah.
Paring away at the unessential to get where you want to go.
Yeah.
You have to kind of swim through some muck to get there, right?
You do. And it's worth it. I know that stuff happens and throws us off our game, or there are certain hurdles that we have to overcome. It just is, it's part of life. And I know that a lot of times hearing the thing of, well, it's life, it is what it is. And I know that can be very frustrating to people because it feels like it's dismissing it, but it really isn't. It is what it is doesn't mean, it is what it is, get over it. It really means, well, it is what it is, and then how do you address it? That's how I...
Yeah, it isn't anything else that you're making it into. It literally is the thing it is.
Right. Exactly. So then how do you address it? How do you move forward through it? And when you have those feelings of anxiety and fear and concern, all of that, moving through it is important, because if you hold on to it or you ignore it, then it builds and builds and builds, and then it makes moving forward way harder. And acknowledging, I have found for me, really helps tremendously. I had a moment yesterday, and that I was really giving myself a hard time. And, we are definitely our worst critics, for sure. And some of us are not. Some of us are totally not clear on ourselves, but we won't talk about that right now. But we can be our hardest critics. And I have this routine every day. I wake up, I make my bed, I wash my face, I brush my teeth, I make my tea. I'm a tea person. I don't drink coffee. And I thought to myself as I was getting ready to make my tea, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to do something that my nephew, Phil's son Jordan, had done for me when we went to visit him in where he lives down south in Southern California. And he made me this tea that was with ginger and cinnamon and just beautifully just steeping it over the stove, and you could smell it, and it was so soothing and incredible. I thought, you know what? I'm going to do that for myself. I'm going to give myself that gift, and I'm going to give myself a break. And the hard
Mm.
time, Kevin S., was based on that whole idea of I'm just not doing enough. There's more I really should be doing. I really need to be doing more for the book. And I should be working on this 24/7. Oh, I have a full time job too. But, really, I'm not. Well, I mean, okay, hold on,
Hmm.
hold on.
Hmm.
Wait a minute. You can only be where you are when you're there. You can't be anywhere else. And so take a look and give yourself a break. And also give yourself a break. Give yourself those moments of deep breath. Take your walks. So I started steeping my stuff. I took my dog for a walk and
Hmm.
then came back feeling way better
Mm.
and clearer,
Mm.
But we forget, you know, oh, I love all kinds of teas. Just ask my brother and sister. I'm a big tea
Yeah.
person. I
Tease,
love teas from all over the
tease.
world, all of it. Tea is very friendly. And tea, isn't just, it's not just that we're going off on a cooking tangent, apologies.
No,
But
but
tea
Oh no!
isn't
no,
just,
Wait, wait,
perfect.
wait, Linda.
No,
Chef
perfect.
Mo. That's you, baby.
just so you guys know, this is one of my three bookcases, not bookshelves, three bookcases that are cookbook cases in my
Wow.
house.
How
I have
many
over
cookbooks do you
400
have?
cookbooks, over 400.
400, over 400.
Yeah. And I do cook out of them. So, um, but tea is just steeping wonderful spices and juices and things like that and heating them up. And it's a salve for the soul. So there you go.
Mm, mm.
By Linda Morris.
That's beautiful, Linda. So you said you've written two books. How did
Yes.
this? So go ahead.
Well, the second book came about because it started as a screenplay. Actually, I was hired to write a screenplay about the life of Terry Sweeka Reed, who is this incredible woman who started a school in Pittsburgh called Phase 4, and a young man named Merle Thompson who changed her life. And she had been diagnosed very young with cancer, a very surprising
Mm.
cancer diagnosis. It was a very unique kind of cancer. And she was working in the corporate world and decided that she'd always wanted to be a teacher, and now was the time to do it. If not now, when? And she was a teacher's assistant at this inner city school, middle school. And this kid, Merle, came in as one of the last kids in the last class of the day. He had none of his supplies, nothing. And he just brightened up the entire room. The entire class changed when he walked in. All the kids were just enamored by him. And as she started to work with him, she discovered how kids learn. Every child learns differently. And she decided to create a school based on that. So their
Wow.
school has something like a 98% graduation rate. It's a high school, and they have all this stuff set up so that you can basically do anything, right? And how they work with you is however long it takes you to get there, they work with you and then they support you. And they have saved children's lives because they gear
Mm.
every child's curriculum to how they work and how they learn. It's
Well,
amazing.
well, that's quite the
So,
luxury, isn't it? Because they don't to take that time in a public school system, especially in Los Angeles, New York, Detroit, Chicago, Cleveland, any of the big metropolitan areas. I would imagine it's difficult to commit those resources. To,
yeah. And it is a private school, but the students don't pay. It's free.
It's so who
fully
pays? Where
funded.
does the money come from?
They get funding through the school district, through
Mm.
grants and all this other stuff. She's very proactive in fundraising, and it's always to make sure that no student should ever have to pay.
Linda,
That's
what's really
crazy.
interesting is you didn't you write you've written for so many other people, and you finally sat down and wrote for yourself, and then your book gets published, and then another book comes out right at the same time without you even knowing it.
Yeah,
That speaks
that
so
was a
much
surprise.
toward, I think, just finally doing it. And then when you just do it, look at the plenty that happens from it.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I want to respond to something here. Is it different? Is it a different type of pressure writing someone else's story as opposed to your own? Yes, it is. Um, and I feel more pressure writing my own because it's a weird sort of thing. When you're writing for someone else, you're interacting with them regarding their story, so you're getting notes back and forth regarding how you're putting their story on paper. And it's the same thing as when you're writing a script, when you're hired to write a script, whatever you're doing for somebody else, even though it may be your script or your story. Once somebody gets on board with it, you get notes on it. It's a back and forth and that kind of thing. um, Writing is very solitary. And so when you're working for someone else with it, as solitary as you may be, you're still turning in pages, you're getting responses back. It's a pressure, like you want to make sure you meet your deadlines, but for me, it's a different kind of pressure. When it's my story, so writing The Grizzly Gourmet, it went through a lot of different variations. And it's like anyone who's an artist of any kind. Art is subjective. So I mean, if you're working in science and creating things like that, that's your art, right? But sometimes you don't know when to stop. And that's the pressure of, when do I stop? And am I willing to put it out there for the world to see? Because when you're writing for somebody else, well, it's your name on it. It more represents them, right? But when it's you and you're kind of filleting yourself for the world to judge and whatever, a lot of times that's why you hear about people who have footlockers full of stories that they never show anybody, because you get worried about how they'll judge you. And I needed to get out of my own way and over myself,
Mm.
and just recognize that it didn't matter. This mattered to me, and this is a story I believed in, and whatever anybody thought of it, I was all for it. But I really wanted to get it to the world, and that was it's now all on me, because that's when it
Yeah,
really is all on you.
yeah, it's of you. It's your vision. You're the one committed to it. You are the one who puts the deadlines in. You're the one with the notes until you give it over to an editor or people you want to have look at it objectively. And a lot of people who have those screenplays or those novels unfinished or those pieces of art that are unfinished is because a lot of artists have completion issues.
Yeah.
They just don't want to finish it. They just don't want to let it go. They see more in it. They're like, I can be better, and that can be better, and they never complete that thing. And it's always a work in progress. So the world never really sees it because it's always being messed with. And what you did was, challenge yourself to go through all of that and put the period to the end of the novel anyway. And that's big, Linda. To finish a book, to finish it, to say you're going to do it's one thing, to be doing it is another thing, and to complete that thing is an incredible accomplishment. I'm really incredibly proud of you, and
Yeah.
I am
Thank
in
you.
this book right now. I have a question about process, if you don't mind.
Not at all.
When you're writing a book like The Grizzly Gourmet of Winslow, California, um, do you know where you're going before you start? Do you know where you're going before you start? Do you plot how to get there, or do you allow it to take you there? Um, what's my other one? And how does that process help you get from one bit to the next? Because it's very complex, it's very detailed. And how does that process work for you?
So as a writer, and I also mentor writers. So this is a great multi-level question that you ask, and it's one of the things I address with writers frequently. You have an idea of where you're going. I'll just speak for me. I have an idea of where I'm going to go, And as I mentioned, the Grizzly Gourmet has gone through different iterations. So you have an idea of where you're going to go at the beginning. And then as you start your process, it's I feel it's very important to not get so tied into it's going to be X, Y, and Z, and this is how it's going to work. Because as you start to build your characters, as you start to grow this world, so we're talking fiction, right? We're not talking about nonfiction. Nonfiction is a very different thing. You know where you're going, and there are certain facts you have to hit. There are certain things you got to hit. Nonfiction is very different. But when it's fiction, once you start to build your characters start to speak to you, and they will let you know if the situations that you're putting them in resonate with them truly, if it really makes sense for their growth as you are starting to really build your story. I write longhand. So I wrote the Grizzly Gourmet fully longhand in binders before I even put it on the computer. And once that starts to happen, then you start to see the holes that you need to fill because you think, oh, okay, wait a minute. I said that they do this, and the characters are starting to talk to me in a way that I need to engage more in that. I need to dig into that deeper. Because as we write, a lot of times you're kind of writing, you're like, okay, I just want to get to the end of that, and just I'll just say this about it. But then as you reread it and your characters are more, you start to get more into your characters start to tell you, you need to give more information here. I'm a living, breathing being on your page. Make sure that comes through. So you start here with these bullet points or these general ideas, but by the time you get into it, you have to start digging deeper and deeper and deeper. And that means research. And that means, whatever the case may be, so that you can truly build out your stories. And then you start to see where you're going as you get there. But, I think it's really impossible to start there and then say, we're absolutely going to make sure we get there. I think that's not fair to your characters.
Yeah, Edward Albee. I just was looking, so I wasn't looking at the phone for any other reason. I was looking who wrote "Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf." I just forgot who that was. Edward Albee wrote it, and reading about him, and he was also an Actors Studio writer. So they had a writers' cell at the Actors Studio, and he was one of their writers as well. And so when I was reading about the Actors Studio and he came up, he said when he would get into trouble with his characters, he would take a walk on the beach. He lived in Cape Cod or Maine, somewhere like that, and he would walk on the beach and let them speak to him. What you're saying, so that he was truthful and he didn't get it wrong and he was authentic, and that their voices came through, and not just his own, not just his wants and desires, but who they were saying they were. Of course, you're not sociopathic. You understand there's a great connection between you and your characters.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a talented writer, those references that you rely on, they're not necessarily always yours. You're going to write about a murderer you're not a vampire. So you're taking these suppositions and you're creating reality out of them. And so then you imbibe your characters with that sense of reality, and the greater reality you imbibe them with, the greater response you're going to get from the audience, and they're going to give you as the writer. It's a great symbiotic relationship, it seems like.
Yeah, no, it really is. And you're so right. And one of the things that I say to other writers is, think about when you go to see a movie or a play or anything, and you get to a point in it and you think, I don't feel like that character would have ever done that. That doesn't feel right. Well, that's because somebody got really caught up on what they thought needed to happen, not what the character would naturally go and do.
Right.
And it's really funny when you say that about naturally go and do, because even in fantasy, no matter what, I mean, there's nothing natural about, a starship, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, when you are watching that, it is still the hero's journey.
Mm-hmm.
And it just happens to be in space, right? So you have to be able to imbue your characters with real, authentic emotion, inspiration. That it has to be true.
You have to build a background for them.
Oh yeah.
Their
Yeah, you
likes,
got to
their
have your
dislikes,
editorial Bible. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have your editorial Bible. And while nobody may ever see it, they will feel it, because they'll feel like there is depth to that person.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Quentin says, writing to me is like building blocks. You have to build the characters and the storyline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as you do that, however, you have to remember that, as even like if you were a child in a sandbox, your blocks, you suddenly see them and think, oh my gosh, wait a minute, this block now needs to go here. I'm
Mhm.
just a real believer in, as you're moving through your writing, to allow that to speak through you. It's also why I do a lot of reading aloud, taking on the character voice and reading it out loud. And I feel like that I have to do that. Screenplays, I do that. I mean, for me, it's just a natural. You have to absolutely do that, because then you got to hear the voices of your characters, because they're visual. It's a visual medium, and you got to really feel that. But even in writing, with Theo and with the Grizzly Gourmet, I read through that while I was doing my revisions at least 7 or 8 times, the entire book.
Right.
When
Well,
I'm
I was so go ahead, Anna. Go ahead.
go, when I'm working with people in their one person shows and they're writing and they're getting into their brains, I always tell them the story's going to find its own pace. You have to give all the information you have to it. And then in giving all the information you have to it, sorry, I'm echoing, giving all the information you have to the story, who, what, where, when, why, what does your character like, what is your character thinking of, then at a certain point, it's like it just takes over. And then you are just moving with this story that's just coming out of you. I feel you're the starter, the catalyst for it, and you have to keep going. And when you get in the way, a lot of my writers talk about I've got writer's block. I'm one to give a couple of examples. Go have a cup of tea, go take a walk, go to the movies. And now we've got these LED screens. Turn on the television, and it's almost like when you walk away and you let it go, then bam, there it is. Or lie down, take a nap, close your eyes. And then bam, something comes and you just keep writing. And then in that way, excuse me, I'm going to come back to you guys. And then I find in that way, then the writer gets on the course of what's going on. Because if you put in
Yeah,
your mind,
that's a good
it's
way to
got to
put it,
be
Alan.
this way,
Yeah, that's a
that
good way to
that
put it.
may not be the juiciest part of the story. That may not be where the
Right,
gold is. So you can
right.
say that, but be open to follow the trail of where it's going to take you. Yeah.
Isn't
Right.
that wonderful? That's what I was mentioning with the Martha Graham letter. She says, keep the channel open. No
Yes.
artist is satisfied. Satisfied, not happy. You can be happy, but no artist is satisfied. And you got to
Yeah.
keep that channel open so that you're
Mm-hmm.
available to all the things that Iona and Linda are talking about, which are the things that are unconscious. In martial arts, I call it the third eye opening, right? You
Hmm.
move beyond the knowledge of your conscious knowledge. You move beyond the movement that you feel that you should be moving. You move in ways that are unexpected and surprising. Isn't that the best art? Isn't that the best performance? Isn't that the best painting? Isn't that the best radio show? Isn't that the best? I mean, you fill in the blank. Um, it's where we find true connectivity, and that's what living is. That's what
Hmm.
life is. That's
Mm-hmm.
what arts are trying to reflect. And when they're doing it their best, in my opinion, these are all our opinions. In my opinion, when they're doing it their best, they make us feel something. They make us cry a
Yes.
little bit. They make us laugh a little bit. They
Yep.
make us think more. They make us question. You can't help it. It evokes. That's what evocation and evocativeness is. It pulls it out of you beyond your conscious mind.
Yeah, truly, truly. There were a couple of questions in there that were interesting.
I,
One
I
was
want.
regarding, oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. I want.
Um,
To go, I gave you that one, but you have another one you see you want, sweetie.
oh, there we go. Yeah, Eleni moves. I know who you are, darling. I want to hit that in a moment. But uh, when I'm writing for somebody else, you know, I don't feel pressured. And I write really quickly when I'm writing for somebody else, actually. I know that I need to get it done. I know what I need to do for it. And I feel like I use a different sort of writing muscle when I'm writing for someone else. And so I don't feel quite as pressured, because I'm pretty good with my deadlines. And I try to get really organized when I know that I've got to do something for someone. I've got to write this. I've got a screenplay that's due, or whatever it may be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever, a blog or whatever. I am really on it. And I do a ton of preparation so that I can just jump in and get it done for them. And then that back and forth that I talk about if I need to get notes from it and so forth, then all good. I don't like to do pressure prompted writing. Now I'm great with like pressure prompted other stuff. I will do. Oh, I'll do that later. Oh, I better do it now. Okay. But when it comes to the writing for other people, I'm so in front of it. I'll do it. And if I get a note,
Mm.
I'll get it. I'll turn it around as quickly as possible. My writing partner, a guy named Brooks Branch that I write with from time to time, he'll let you know that if he sends me something, I can turn it around in a day. And
Yeah.
it can be a big deal. So it's really, really important. Now, as far as the so detailed and specific, I love doing research. I'm a natural student. I loved school. Even if I said I didn't like it, I loved it. I love research. I love reading books. I love digging in. And because of when I was setting the setting for all of this, I did a lot of deep dive in certain cookbooks regarding certain dishes,
Mm.
and making sure that if they were dishes that were in cookbooks that I have now, did they exist during the 1900s, the early 1900s? Were they something that was created, or was it something created later? Then I wasn't going to use it. Right. So legacy things. There are certain ships in the book. There are certain types of knives. There are certain types of things that are in there. I did a lot of getting online, and I will say this, and no offense to Wikipedia, truly, it is really helpful when you need a quick fix. But when you're doing serious research, really digging into Britannica or cultural things or various things, really doing multiple layers. And I spent a lot of time doing research on that, and online and in books, reading certain
Does
books.
does research, so when you're doing that deep dive, does that also then open other, do you know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like you're like, whoa, I didn't know that. I
Yeah.
can use that. And yeah, man, yeah, I could see how that
Yeah.
would actually color and give
Mm.
depth and layers, you
Yeah.
know.
Oh yeah,
Mm.
for sure. For sure. And so that was part of the fun of it, right? I had one, so I'll give a really good example. There's a ship in the book that's very pivotal. And when I first started it, I had in mind an Iron Maiden. I was going to use that, which is very well known and that kind of thing. But as I started thinking more about it, I thought, I created something with one of the characters that she has a certain attachment to a certain kind of culture, and I wonder if that can play into it. And then that's when I discovered the ship that I use in it. And I love that I got to find that, because then that opened up a
Mm.
whole bunch of things that came along with it that helped even flavor the characters even a little bit more, and how they engaged with the ship and the feeling that it gave them when it showed up. So, yeah, exactly,
But
Phil.
that's a
It
ship.
does.
When I read about this ship that you've created, is a ship that Linda Morris would not want to interact with.
You can-
It's too big,
It's too
Oh,
big.
too
oh my
large,
gosh.
right?
They would have to blindfold me to
Linda
get me close.
Linda has got a fear of, it's, I forget what it's called, gigantism or some weird thing. It's the fear of
Gosh.
overtly large objects.
Mm. I
And
was in Sacramento. I don't know if you guys know the Sacramento airport, but when you you get off the plane and you're walking out, and you guys know I love rabbits. I've owned rabbits. I'm about to get another couple of rabbits. They have a giant rabbit, giant. I don't know how big this freaking thing is, because I would not look up. I couldn't, and I saw it and I thought, oh, I can't do it, man. And the people I was with are like, don't you like rabbits? I love rabbits. I cannot look up at that thing. I can't do it. I can't do it. So
when I read how big that ship was, I was like, Linda wrote something that she wouldn't
She
even
would
do
never,
herself.
never.
even look at.
Nope.
No.
That's
No.
so funny, Linda.
But I respect it.
Hey, honey, here's a question. Linda, what would be a good process time in writing a book? I know everyone is different as far as getting it published. Just a curious question I had for you.
A
Quentin.
process time. I'm guessing that's how long does it take, right?
Mhm.
It takes as long as it takes, man. I mean, it just.
How long did it take you?
Okay, well, so from the time that I had the idea until the time I got published, it took a long time. But I wasn't working on it for all that time. That's why the different iterations came. But from me sitting down and getting it to what felt like, okay, this is truly the story, that was about 5 years. I guess about 5 years. And then once I found the publishing place, manuscripts, that was what was really cool because I'm very competitive with myself. So I saw, they said, how quickly do you think you could get us the first draft? After they decided that it was, that they liked the story. I didn't need to go through a variety of things a lot of their writers go through. I said, well, I could probably get it to you by the end of April. Great. This was, when I told them that, this was, I want to say February of 2023. And so I did. I got it, and I got it in on April 28th.
Woohoo.
And
Come on now.
I just closed my eyes and I just went. Now, it already existed, but it was 3 separate books. And I completely mashed them together, then split them apart. And that, yeah. So that was that. But it was about 2 years. 2 years of really, really putting my mind to creating this particular story.
So the idea comes to you and you marinate on it, and then you don't start writing, right?
Right. Yeah. I wrote this first as a children's verse, as a poem. Yeah. This was a children's verse, very similar to, I have this incredible book called Beastly Boys and Ghastly Girls. It's all these poems that are about, just children that are icky and just really very Tim Burton, Shel Silversteiny, very cool. And so I wrote it first like that. And it felt kind of fun because the idea came from one of my very small children at the time, who are not very small children anymore.
Oh, no.
And someone said to me, this is going to scare kids, because the name of the restaurant at the time was the Restaurant of Death. And I thought,
yeah, subtle. I got it. Yeah.
I said,
Hell yeah.
well, that's what Brandon said the restaurant should be called. The restaurant should be called the Restaurant of Death. And it said, okay, well.
And how old was he at the time?
He was 3. And watching Emerald live when he said it. So I did it like that. And then when I first started writing it, it was kind of Dear Gentle Reader and a narrator and a whole thing, and a mother telling a story to a daughter. And it was very kind of campy. Theo was really campy. And I thought that was kind of fun. But I stopped one day and I thought, what if your dreams, you felt like all your dreams were gone and that they have been taken away from you? And how would it feel to be on the verge of becoming a master chef where you can create any type of cuisine, and now you're a vampire and all you will ever eat for the rest of your life is one thing?
Cheeseburgers?
And
I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm sorry. I'm so
That's
sorry.
right. A very rare
book.
cheeseburger, but yes,
Different
Very
vampire.
rare
appropriate.
cheeseburger.
My
Oh,
gosh.
sorry.
See, now you guys see what I grew up with.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's too much.
I read the Cheeseburger Vampire book as a child, and I just.
And that was it. Hey, Quentin.
That's the only vampire.
You're asking how long does it take to write a book, like how long does it take to bake a cake? And you know what? It all depends on you. You could write that book in a few months, a couple of years, or you could get the idea, and then I don't know if anybody's going to like this idea. I don't know if anybody's going to want to. And then you doubt yourself and you move on to other things. And then you come back and you write. And then Phil's talking about, it's terrible. It's not done. 3 more years pass. And what ends up happening is you just got to stick to it and take your own time. It's all in your own time. It's not on anybody else's time. Right, Linda, at all? It's not.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I will say something really interesting that is part of, and this was created to help people who have books inside of them to find them, because writing a book can be very daunting. Not can be, it's daunting. It is daunting. However, there's something called NaNoWriMo, and I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it, but it's basically National Novel Writing Month. And this whole organization started, it's free, it's really competing with yourself. It's all about writing 50,000 words in 30 days in November. They have a website. They have a whole thing. I don't get paid to say any of this. It's a really
What
great
is it called again,
tool.
Linda?
NaNoWriMo. So
Rimo.
Uh huh. W
NaNoWriMo. So National Novel Writing Month.
NaNoWriMo. Cool. I'm just putting.
Rimo.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Rimo.
Rimo, not rhino.
Okay, give it spell to me again, please.
NaNoWriM like Morris. Oh,
There we go.
and it's all about writing. You write 50,000 words in 30 days. And the trick to that is not to edit yourself. Just write. Just write. And you can put it onto the website and then it counts your words for you. And then by November 30th, you have however many words you have. But then once you have that, you then take those 50,000 words, and then you can take time over that year to start to massage it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's been great. I do it every year. I don't always succeed, but I've done it 3 times. I've hit 50,000 words 3 times, but none of those books are books I'm writing. But it works my muscle. It
So
works
here
my
you
writing
go.
muscle.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lenny Pooh. Go with your last part. You said it works your muscle.
It works my writing muscle.
Your writing muscle. She's got muscles. Ooh. I want to bring that one back. Chris Barrett, Phil's manager, who we love so much, which is so true. Write a page a day. In 1 year, you'll have a first draft.
Yep.
That's
It's
365.
discipline, right? I mean, it's discipline and focus. And like anything else that you want to be successful at, I suppose you have to create time for yourself to make these things happen. It can't just be a good idea. It can't just be one of those things that you're thinking about. It's got to be the thing that you do.
Yeah.
And in
Yeah.
it, then it'll result in what you want. But in thinking about it and mulling it over, and this is what we get caught in a lot of times, is just staying in our head and not really literally putting pen to paper in this instance, but metaphorically, like real life, putting one foot in front of the other, whatever you want to use. We still are guilty of it. We still fall prey to that, each one of us, every single day, not doing the thing that we know we need to do for us to be better us's in the
Yeah.
world, as opposed to the things that we do for everybody else or that we handle for other people that don't necessarily result in the things that we need in order to grow and get better and healthier and more clear.
Yeah.
I'm working with a writer right now. I was directing a one-man show recently, and he has an 87-minute one-man show. It's fabulous. But to go to festivals, he's got to cut it down to an hour. And I've been waiting and waiting on the hour script so I can give comments and help him with it. And he hasn't sent it. So I called him yesterday. It's been like 2.5 months. And I'm like, what's up? I don't know how to do it. I don't know what to do. I'm afraid I'm going to get rid of all of these things that I love. They're going to go. And my thought to him is, stop saying you can't. Stop saying it's not going to work. Say that it is going to work. I'm a chanter. I'm a prayer. And that's what he does. Just ask for guidance. And how does it make it work? I believe in the creative gods. They're there for you. And also, if you need, get a book. Read about writing. Read about what you need to know. And just go and start knocking things out and get in the flow of it instead of the fear of something. And then it's never going to work when you're in the fear of something, or if you already say, an hour's not going to work. I'm not going to be able to do my whole show. They're not going to get the emotions from me.
That can't happen.
That can't happen. Then guess what? You're going to be right.
You'll be right. Yeah.
So want to be right about it working. And then, Linda, hold that thought. The one thing I want to add to that is, not only will you do the research for what you need to find out how to make it work, but you will run into the strangest areas. You run into someone in a coffee shop. You start talking. I'm editing my show and it's frustrating me. Oh, well, I help people write one-person shows. What can I do for you? Or I help people write. That will always happen. You'll always call in to you what you need if you stay in a space of, I know it can happen. I can do it. You don't always have to know how it's done. You just got to start the process.
Yeah. Yeah, really, really, really true. And you know, and the other part of it is that that's why we keep drafts, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we keep drafts of our stories because we may discover, you know, I killed off a character that was really seminal and really important, and I had to get rid of her, and because it wasn't working, and that, you know, took a lot. And it's, but I am working on book two for this, and she will come into play in some form. So I need to keep those drafts because, oh, there's information that I will bring back in. You don't delete everything. So when you're, you know, when you're
Mm-hmm.
rewriting, you just remember, hold on to those drafts. There'll be little nuggets and even little lines of dialogue or something that you use there that you'll want to harken back to,
Right.
and you'll need it. You know, it helps to have those for
Yeah.
you. Yeah, you gotta keep your stuff around, but you don't have to keep it in. You know, yeah,
No,
yeah.
keep it so you can refer to it as resource
Yeah.
material.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you
I
need
remember
that. I mean, you need it.
we talk about the process of all these things, and I was talking to a director one time on our version of Mission Impossible, and I was asking him, the filmmaking process. He goes, for me, it takes three forms. One is you have the script, you have everybody's good idea, everything is possible. We're going to do this. This is going to be amazing. This is the way this film is going to be. Have you read the script? It's incredible. Then you start shooting. Then you realize the limitations of your shooting schedule, or you realize the limitations of your cast, or of your technical crew, or of the lighting, or of the time, or the budgets, or whatever it is. And you try and get as much as you can of the original vision in the can, as it were. And then the third part is editing. When you go into the editing booth with the editor and you see what you actually have,
Mm-hmm.
and that tells you then what the movie's going to be. So it may be very different than the original vision, or may match up well with the original vision, depending on preparation, all types of factors. But those are the three stages of making a film, and I'm going to imagine that most art projects are the same. You have an image, a vision of what you want it to be. Then you execute that vision. The execution of that vision isn't perfectly going to match up with the vision in its own truly organic state, your truthful, authentic state, because of the limitations of many things. Your ability to express that image, your ability to express that thought, or your ability to budget or create it, and then you're left with the result of it all. And that result, that's art.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
It sure is.
That's
I
really
often
true.
tell people just open up another window on your computer. It's because while you're writing, and I deal in the area of mostly one person shows, all of a sudden your brain gets all these ideas, but you're writing something else. You've got to honor those ideas, write them down, then they're out of your head. You'll come back to it. You use it or you won't, but don't get rid of anything because you'll say, oh God, my character said this so well, and it's gone. You just keep
Mm-hmm.
everything, keep a big folder on the computer where all of that goes so you
Yeah.
can refer to it.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
Linda, I want to ask you a question here that comes up from Tiffany. I'm curious how much compromising you have to do when you have an editor. How do you maintain your vision but still allow room for others' opinions?
You know, editors are a good editor is there to support and help you. They're not bringing their own agenda with them. They are not wanting their voice to be heard. They want to help make your story better. And they will tell you, if you don't agree with my notes, tell me. Tell me. And then we can talk it through. You don't have to accept what your editor says. You don't. Now, if you are in that space where you aren't going to accept what your editor says, if you are holding on to things and they're so precious, then you're probably not ready to have an editor look at your book. You need to remember that you are probably the only one that's looked at it. And maybe if you've had other people read it, there are people that are going to tell you exactly what you want to hear. And you have to let go and recognize that you don't know everything. You've been living in a bubble with your story forever, and you have to have those outside opinions. And the
Mm-hmm.
goal is to find that opinion and that insight and that expertise. Says it's not just opinion. It's not that the editor's opinion is this. It's that they come at it knowing how story does actually work. And it's really important that, so for example, my revisions editor was somebody that was really excited to work on my book because this was a world that she loves. She's the goth queen. She just, I mean, she was ecstatic about it. And all of her notes were just fantastic. Now, I I give notes to people as well. So I tend to take constructive criticism really well. I believe that whoever's giving it to me is to help me. And so I look at that and open my mind to it. And if you start to realize that the person that you've asked to edit your book or who is editing your book, you start to recognize that they're putting their voice into it, that's when you stop and say, okay, hold up, wait a minute. You're not
Mm-hmm.
editing my book, you're
Mm-hmm.
writing my book. Editors don't write your book, they edit your book.
Or you want them to comment and not critique, right?
Right. You want them to
That's a very
comment,
fine
not
line.
critique. It's a
Right.
very fine line. And when they need to, and if honestly, if they need to pull you aside and say, I need to talk to you about your book, I'm the flow's off. Let's talk about that. They will want to talk to you about it. They won't just give you a bunch of notes and tell you to take care of it.
Right.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's why it's a give and take. And you can always say no.
Right.
My
Right.
thought is always go write your
go-
own.
well,
To
yeah,
some
but if
people, when
you
you're
ask
getting
them to
that,
come
and
in,
that's important for people to know what is a good criticism and what is an input of what they see for what they want, as opposed to helping you for what you've written.
right, like a good golf coach or something. I mean, somebody who comes from knowledge as opposed
Right.
Yes.
to
Yeah.
no knowledge, just is pontificate. I want to take this a different direction for a second. I don't never didn't talk about this, but I think it's going to be cool. I think you're going to like it. Hold on.
Okay. Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead. You want to do Mariella?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, 'cause
Well, you
she'd
know
said
what?
it
I
a
want to
couple
bring
times.
in Cold Soul's one comment and then go to Mariella. But is that where you're going to go to Mariella's talking about?
Nope. Got something else.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Okay. Let me bring this one in from Kolsch.
Yeah. Yeah. There. So think about
Excuse me.
the most exciting stories are things that happen in the story that make you go, oh, what? Where's it going to go? How's that going to happen? Books are the same way because it's a story. It has a beginning, middle, and an end. Even if the end leaves you dangling, right?
Mm.
And the conflict may be not quite, oh my gosh, we've got to go save this or whatever the case may be, but it will still be some sort of something, whether it's inner conflict or some exterior conflict or both or whatever. It will always be a part of the story because it will drive it forward and make it. Sorry, Phil, I was just thinking about Steve Martin. Have a point. It will make it so much more enjoyable for the listener, which is from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. So, but the truth is, you want to make sure.
That was a good one, Linda.
We have a lot of film references in our family.
Oh, yeah.
But
Especially those two.
but books, and no matter what the story is, because if you even think about it, one of my favorite stories from Dr. Seuss is the Sneetches. And how with the Sneetches, here it is, this little story about the Sneetches with star belly Sneetches, and the ones with the plain belly Sneetches, and the star bellies were just full of themselves, and the plain bellies just felt terrible. And then the guy comes in and he messes with them. Well, when you look at that, you're kind of like, well, the conflict is just the star bellies, and no, it's not. Mm-mm. It's this man coming in and pointing out to them, look at y'all. You have no idea what you're doing. You guys are fools.
You're getting it wrong.
You're getting it wrong. And that is their inner conflict. It wasn't the conflict with each other. It was the fact that they could not accept themselves. And, it wasn't good enough. And they were judging each other because of it. So, it's there in every story that you're willing to be a part of. It will always be there.
The obstacle is the way.
That's
Yes,
right.
the obstacle
That's
is the
right.
way.
Makes
The
it so
obstacle
much
is the
more
way.
Good.
Oof, that's so deep in so many levels. Hey, Phil, go ahead. We'll catch Mariella. But
Mariella.
where are you gonna take us, honey?
Well, it's more personal. It's kind of like as I see all of us on screen and I hear what we're talking about, Not once have we mentioned our family, but that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing because if all we talked about was our family, it would kind of make us limited in how we relate to the world, which is not the way it is. We all have our own bits of expression, our own ways of relating to the world. We have an incredible independence with each one of us. And it was our mother's birthday recently, and it's going to be Father's Day soon. And so, since both of those mean so much to us, I wanted to bring that into this to highlight the expressions that we all have and how we have come to those places and what each one of us kind of think about that and how our upbringing and our legacy has landed and resonated in each one of us. As we're talking about Linda's writing tonight, Ione and I talk about our journey quite a bit, but I thought it was a really interesting time to have all of us on to reflect on, especially because it was our mother's birthday and it is Father's Day. And it says so much to everybody who has a mom and a dad, who, whether they have them here or they've lost them, what it means to come from something special. You know, what it means to come from people who weren't just artists, but were really artists as human beings and gave us so much. And I wanted to give us all a chance to kind of like realize that we're all in this together. We're in this moment on screen together. We have gone through so much together. We've had so many trials and tribulations and beautiful things and loving, joyous moments that could last many, many lifetimes. I mean, I honestly feel like we're vampires and we've been living forever, and we just keep recreating these beautiful moments and how we all feel about it. I think it's a really nice time to talk about it, quite frankly.
Yeah. Well, there's Ione, you were talking about writer's block, and there's a writing tool that many of us use, which is called I Come From. And when you're stuck or you need to get started on something, just starting to write out I come from, and starting really slowly, right? I come from Los Angeles. I come from being the youngest of three kids. I come from, and then what starts to happen is you start to get more and more detailed, which starts to open your mind up towards the writing. Well, whenever I've had to do I come from, I can't help but end with I come from the stuff of dreams. And, I look back at the life that we've been so fortunate to have been a part of, to have been given, and the opportunities and the ways that our parents engaged us in art and film. And you guys, a lot of you don't know, but there was a time when there were 2:00 in the morning movies, and those were the movies that our dad could go to, because he couldn't go to movies at regular times. And we would have to get into a movie first, hold the seat, the lights would have to dim, then he could come in. I'll never forget it. Blazing Saddles, big, a really huge example. Dad came in, sat on the aisle because he was very long and lean, sat on the aisle, laughed very hard and almost fell out of his seat.
Laughed his ass off.
Laughed his ass off. But when the credits hit and before everybody got up, he had to get up and leave. And so when we were little, we would take naps, and it would be during the school week. And he would take us to see these unbelievable movies at 2:00 in the morning, because then we could all go in together. And then we talk about the movies after. Yeah. And I think about that, and it's just like, wow, I mean, our mom teaching us to read at crazy young ages. And I mean, just it, we were really, really fortunate. We were really, really fortunate. And I remember that every day. I really do.
Oh, that's beautiful, Linda. Okay, I'll go.
And I just want to, Kevin, I'm not quiet, man. I'm just listening to my sister. I'm basking in the glow of the beautiful estrogen that is on the screen.
Oh, listen,
really
listen, sweet talking.
No, it's real. It's real. It's real.
Yeah. I remember our family. We were the kids. I can't say we were the kids, because I don't know of any of the kids who did this, but our parents would go out on dates. And when they got home, we were like, we got to play. You guys got to sit down. We have a play, and we've got songs. And we're going to sing some songs, and we would put on a performance, and we would take these vacations, and our mom would cook these great meals, and we would decorate and design things, and we created this king and queen of hearts, these big posters for our parents for Christmas. And they taught us about loving from a place of giving, of sharing your imagination. They never stopped us from doing that. And we all had different talents. And Linda and Phil, I really can't remember too many arguments that we had as kids, because we would just jump in together and do stuff. And it was wonderful because our parents were so supportive and loving and fun. When we sat at the dinner table and they asked, how was your day? Fine was not going to cut it. You had to give an explanation of the day and how the day went. And then everyone would give comments. And then depending on the day, Phil would start a comedy routine. It could be Bill Cosby. It could be another comedian. And we would end up begging him to please stop because our stomachs were hurting so much. It was wonderful. I loved growing up in that household. We ate together. Our treats were bringing in TV trays, maybe on a Sunday, and sitting there with frozen dinners when they were good and watching television together.
60 Minutes.
Going on.
Every Sunday.
Every Sunday, that's right. Going on vacations together, and Dad taking us out on these to go see things. And I'll never forget, remember, guys, Dad had that really fancy camera he got. He loved that camera. And we went to this crater, and man, this was famous. And he was taking pictures. And it had 36 shutter, on the little can. And he's going, oh, I've got 37. The numbers kept going. He just was like badass, man, because he was taking pictures. And then when we got back,
you got lucky. I got lucky with this
right.
role.
We got back to the Winnebago. He opened. There was no film in the camera.
It was so awful. Oh man.
Actor, not cameraman. No.
Growing up with these two was wonderful. It was really fun. And I'll tell you, Phil was the fun one. And Linda and I's sisters had our. It took years. But as adult women, she's one of my best friends. And I'm so grateful that we never stayed in that space of, I'm angry with you for something you did when you were 9. I mean, come on. We see each other. We have to see each other because we're family. Or rather, no. We have a choice to see each other as family. So why not find out what we have in common and mend? And we have, to such a degree, I don't remember when it was, and I don't remember when it mended. I just remember us calling each other and talking and one thing after another. And I'm grateful for these two people right here.
Yeah.
Me too. It's kind of crazy because a lot of families don't make it through. They don't. And as much as they say they love each other, or they do, I suppose, something keeps them from just accepting each other and letting each other be whoever they're supposed to be, as opposed to who you would want them to be. And I'm sure that there are families that have very difficult situations and addiction and abuse and all of that. We are fortunate not to have that. We have barking dogs, but that's about it. But we're fortunate that we don't have addiction and that stuff in us as children, as offspring. And so I think that lends to a healthier interaction with each other because we don't have that. we're not competitive with one another. I've never been competitive with my sisters. I want them to be as beautiful and wonderful and successful as they can possibly be in whatever venue they choose to be. For a minute, I thought Linda was the best actor of all of us because she was 14 years old, 15 years old, 16 years old, killing it in a play, that she was doing with other amazing talents from Beverly Hills High School called Faces on the Wall. And when I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, she is touched. And then you hear her sing. You're like, this. So all of us, Iona's right. We all have our talents. It's not a mystery to me, Iona's a director. That's who she was when we were growing up. She was a director. Why we do them chords? Iona said, let's do them chords. We did the chords. I was like, we're gonna do the West Side Story. We do the West Side Story. I mean,
That was so funny.
am I wrong, Linda? I mean,
Not, we did it. Okay,
like,
okay, we'll do it.
idea,
Okay,
Iona. Yeah, let's go. You know what I mean?
let's go.
Like, I don't make us do anything. I was like, we want.
I mean, it's like,
that.
I'm
Yeah,
Anita, and Linda, you're Maria, and Phil, you're Tony.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we really kind of vibed off of each other and allowed each other to be each other's friends. We weren't trying to be each other. We all had our own group of friends, and all of our friends liked our siblings. They respected them. We didn't have any stuff like that. I mean, I really look at it as a very charmed upbringing in many ways. In a world that's not easy, the Hollywood Beverly Hills world. You see so much dysfunction, and we had our own dysfunction. Our father he went through, our mother went through what she went through, and we went through as kids. But it was very organic and it was very honest, and we didn't lie to each other, and we didn't try to hurt each other in any way. We've always been supportive, and that's who you see on the screen today. That's why I wanted to speak on it, because even though we go through what we go through, this is what it is at the end of the day, and we're very fortunate. I'm very grateful to have these people in my foxhole with me, and I want the world to know that. So I wanted to take this time to speak on it because you never know, man. Nothing's guaranteed.
Nothing
Yeah.
at all. As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
we celebrated our mom's birthday. We celebrate our mom and our dad's birthdays every year. If we can't get together, we're on the phone or Zoom, but we've pretty much been together, and we went to her favorite Chinese restaurant. We ordered way too much food.
Wait, but it was perfect because the next day
Oh,
I had dinner. It was
Yeah,
awesome.
right.
And my sons were very happy with me.
I know
Thanks,
they were.
Mom.
And of course, the Mai Tais. Yeah.
Oh, so good. So even if they're bad, they're good.
Come on.
Oh, God.
Now, I was going to say that
Phil's great.
the thing that was always so great as we, talk about our parents, we lived in a part of, we lived up in the hills. And
Of Beverly
as
Hills.
kids, Beverly Hills. So as kids, there's Truesdale, which is all the way up there. No one's ever going to come up there, or so you would think. And then there's the flats. But our house was a really safe space,
Yeah.
a centralized space for everybody. Our mom was the mom that would throw all the kids by herself, all the kids in the station wagon, and by herself take us to Magic Mountain or wherever. And every single one of those kids, she had one rule: just in a half an hour, somebody come back and tell me how you doing. And she would plant herself somewhere, and somebody would always go back and say, Mrs. Morris, we're still in line. Okay, without fail, because those kids knew Mrs. Morris trusted them, she loved them, and she had their back.
Right.
And I'd come home from school sometimes, and one of Phil's friends might be hanging out in the living room, and I'd say, Phil's not here. Yeah, I'm waiting to talk to Uncle Greg.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
Well, he's at the studio. I'm going to wait. Okay, you do that. And they'd wait and, talk to Dad. And these were always kids that, our parents were normal parents in a very extraordinary world. And I think it was incredible when you think about the fact that our mom's closest sibling to her was 14 years older than her.
Mhm.
And she was the fourth of four kids.
And not
our dad was
expected. Her mom didn't know she was pregnant when she
Yep.
went to the hospital. She thought she
Yeah.
had indigestion or something was wrong with her, and they were going to operate, and then they found out it was a baby.
Yeah, because she was older and she thought she had already gone through all that. And then our dad was, that kid that was a surprise and lived a very unique life growing up. But
Truly.
the focus that they gave really showed us about love and caring and respect. And that's, that's huge. And our friends saw that too. And that was big. That was always big.
The tuna fish sandwiches. Kids would come over to have lunch. She let them have one of Mom's tuna fish sandwiches because she put it in pretty, looked plated, and it was delicious, and a little pickle and some chips and a little soda or juice, and she talked to them. That's the thing, you guys, talking to each other. These devices, we stop talking, especially this generation. A lot of them don't know about that relationship. And we need to talk to each other more. When someone says, "How are you?" don't wait for fine. How are you? Get an answer. Show them that they're important to you. And then keep it moving, but get an answer. And that changes so much.
And be listening to them even when they're not talking.
Right.
Notice them, notice their behavior, notice how they are. Feel them, feel each other. I want to share this with you guys. I shared it with Linda. I'm going to share it with you, Iona. I was talking about it earlier, the thing I want to talk about. Getting to that. 7-Eleven. I love 7-Eleven. Hope it's still open. They have this little sour watermelon.
Yeah.
So stupid. So stupid.
Pray for him, y'all. Pray for him.
Please. I've got so many issues. So going through a lot lately. A lot going on. All of it is amazing. Some of it is challenging. But the challenge doesn't mean it's not amazing. It's just challenging. Some of it is really easy and glorious and forthcoming. Some of it I'm going to have to work for. Other things, personal things, they're things you have to work for because they don't just come to you because you're in relationships with people. You have interactions with people that aren't just you. They aren't just your own point of view. It's their point of view and their life that you are involved with. That's why you have a relationship with them. So it serves you to also see yourself through other people's eyes and to allow for that to embed itself in you and take root and be more full as opposed to selfish. So that isn't what I want to say, but I want to talk about that because that's what led me to what I feel and what I'm going to tell you. So I came up with this reality or this philosophy for myself, and I hope that you understand it. Here it is. We are not bound to anything except the truth of the thing. We are not bound to anything except the truth of the thing. Meaning, whatever it is. And I know you can put us all up. It's all good. Whatever it is, your career, your book, your directing, your love life, your marriage, your relationship with your people. The truth of that thing is what you're bound to. The truth of your love, the truth of your responsibility. That's what you're truly bound to, you're connected to. Everything else is a bit of a distraction, right? And we can get distracted pretty heavily and lose the forest for the trees, as they say. And so I really found relief even today in what I was going through, in looking at the truth of a thing as opposed to the other stuff that's around it that doesn't bind me, but my mind plays with me and it messes with me. And I can choose to entertain it, but it isn't the thing that moves me. It isn't the thing that should be first and foremost in my mind because it isn't the truth of it. And the truth of it is all that I should be connected to. That's the thing that I'm bound to. That's the thing that will work for me and make me a successful human being. The other things are distractions. And you can choose to be distracted if you want. That's up to you. But the truth is what you need to be bound to in order for your life to be successful, in my opinion. And I like distraction. Trust me, I have a lot of foolish thoughts and things that make me tick. Those aren't the things I'm talking about. The things that I'm talking about, the essential things, right? The life and death of it all. The truth of your life.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff. That's the connective tissue that we need to be connected to. Those are what bind us to our lives. The other things are just other things. And you can couch them however you want to couch them. But the truth of the thing, the truth of your heart, of your love, of your responsibility, of your fill in the blank. For me, that's where I want to be bound. That's what I want to challenge myself to see, to understand, to live in fullness with. And I feel so much better when I'm there. I don't feel as good when I'm considering all of the mind fuckery, that I put myself through based on my emotions, my ego, my hubris, my selfishness. We all have it. We all have it. And that's not what I'm bound to. That's just what's moving me at the moment. What I'm bound to is the truth of that, which is deeper than my ego. It's deeper than my own agenda. It's deeper and more objective than what I see. And so for me in my life, I want to commit myself to being bound to the truth of a thing and not to the BS of it all.
That's so beautiful, Phil, because so much of it is looking outside ourselves for something. It's out there. It's out there. If only I could have, as opposed to what's right here. What's right here? The connections that we even have to each other, our families, that's more important than any of the other stuff. And yeah, we like stuff, we need stuff, but what's important? What's really what you can't live without?
I have to live with myself, and so I have to
for
be
myself to
for
know
myself
myself.
to know.
Be
A
able
day
days
days
by.
goes by.
Always to
Just
look myself straight in the eye. Just so as you guys know, this was something we memorized as children, and
We're
it has
very
never
small
left
little.
us. Very
That's a
small.
great poem entitled
Myself by Edgar Guest.
Check it out, people. You'll really appreciate it.
Yeah. Really important stuff.
by Edgar Guest,
Guest, yes.
Guest.
Guest.
ST.
Like a guest coming for dinner.
Yes. Guest who's coming for dinner? No, it's not right. It's not right.
Linda, you are like so friggin' awesome. Having you
thank you.
in, you've had you on here more than anyone. You're really fabulous.
wow.
You know what? I'm going to try something that I haven't done yet. Linda, you are just so awesome. I just gotta. I'm having so much fun with this.
So good. So good. So proud of you too. I mean, it's just incredible. And we'll talk about the book later. And then when we have you back on again, we'll do a whole New York Times review.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my heavens.
So let's go through a little bit of right here so I can give everybody a place where they can find
All of us.
And then we'll do our final words. That's Linda Morris. Now this is where you can find her. And we call her Chef Mo because the chickie poo can cook her tushy ushy off. And then Sweetie Pie was talking about her books. You guys got to pick up The Grizzly Gourmet. And this is where you can find it. Nothing short of amazing. And this is where you can find it. And I'll also post it so you guys can see more. And Linda posts a lot too. She's pretty incredible. And then the man of the group, handsome, at the Fillmores, at the Fillmores, at the Fillmores, at the Fillmores. Isn't he just wonderful? Look at that, those steely eyes. Look at that look. Magnificence. And then there's me. That's where you can find me. I own a lot of gold. And you can always find our show, you guys. Here we are. I love it. You like, yeah, hello, groovy.
So groovy.
So, hey, Linda, you want to start us off with some final words? And you know what? If I could just throw this out, Mariella, and I'm so sorry, Mariella did ask a wonderful question. Does any of this have to do with life? So I just want to throw that out there to you guys. If you can incorporate that at some point in your final words.
Wow. Yes. I guess. It's all life. I mean, because we're living it. And whatever, I'll take it from the writing the book's standpoint and the writing the book. Um, you know, I'm not a vampire and anything like that, but I have experienced that moment of how far am I willing to go to hold on to my dreams when something maybe throws me off. And, we all have those things in our lives that matter to us. And what are we prepared to do to pursue them? And sometimes we, as we talked about at the top of the show, sometimes they show up in ways we didn't expect. But that doesn't mean it doesn't still take us down a path that will bring us fulfillment in pursuit of that dream in some way. So I guess my final thought is, you know, it gets hard sometimes, and it can be exhausting. And recognizing that that is just what happens sometimes, and you don't have to make it what you hold on to forever, so that you can find your way through it. And if you need help, if you need a shoulder to cry on, if you need to reach out to a friend, if you need to take walks, if you need to work out, if you need to, whatever positive support you can get for yourself to get through it. Self-care is never overrated. And it comes in different forms, and that's part of life.
That's beautiful, sweetie.
Mhm.
Hey, Mr. Morris.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I gave it a little bit earlier, but I will say this. Linda mentioned it. One of my favorite movies is The Untouchables. One of my favorite
Mm.
performances, John Connery. You got to watch this movie. It's crazy. What he says, right, when he's about to expire, not to blow it for anybody, is he tells Elliot Ness, played by Kevin Costner, in his almost dying breath, what are you prepared to do? How far are you willing to go? In this case, it was to put um, Al
Al
Capone behind
Capone.
bars. Yeah. In our case, it's to keep ourselves alive on the planet, to live the best, most authentic, most original life we can live. What are you prepared to do? Are you going to fall down when somebody says no? You're going to cower when somebody yells at you and screams in your face? Or are you going to stand up for yourself? We all go through tough stuff, man. I'm going through something right now, and they ain't getting me. They're
That's
just going
right.
to strengthen my resolve so that when we do what we're going to do happens, we can say, you should have come along. We invited you, but you weren't prepared. We are, because we are prepared to do whatever it takes to make our lives as full as they need to be. And that's where I am in my life. That's what you hear every Thursday. And when I talk about how busy we are or what we're doing, that's as a result of what we are prepared to do for this life. So I encourage you to be strong for yourself. And what are you prepared to do to be the best you can be?
Mm, that's beautiful. Wow. I feel so blessed and grateful for these two people right here and for all of you. You know, when we were talking about the book, and Linda was also talking about, and Phil was talking about different things and how you can move forward in the use of the character and story. A lot of that does have to do with life. How are we moving forward? What are you what are you looking at that you want to do? Don't stop yourself. Okay, if it's dangerous, yeah, but don't stop yourself. What are your dreams? What's your vision? And if it takes you 5 years to get there because you're deciding whether or not what you're thinking is good enough, you're deciding whether or not what you can do, don't give up on it. Don't give up on you. You were put here for a reason. We often say this. Those sperms went up and they found an egg and made you. Could have been somebody else, but it's you. The world needs you. That's why you're here. Everything that happens is perfect. The good and the bad. It seasons who you are. It helps you take the next steps in your day. Don't suffer over your suffering. Don't wallow in what doesn't seem to be working. Look and see how you can make it better. You are the engineer of your life. And everything we talk about in one way or another does have to do with life. So like I always say, look in the mirror at your best friend. Love up on your best friend. Listen to your best friend. Write it out. Talk it out in an audio app on your phone, and listen back to who you are and love up on you. Not all of it's going to be positive, baby. Some of it's going to come out funky. Let the funk come out so it doesn't stay in you. And we love you. You're awesome. And we're so glad you guys are here. Thank you, Linda Morris.
Thanks,
Thank
Linda.
you.
Thanks for being
Thanks
here
for
with
having
us.
me on, guys.
See you next week. Vision is possible. Know that.
So we're bringing out a little bit of music to go away. You know, I always have to say, night, Philly. Good night, everybody. We love you. We'll see ya next week.